Hello everybody, this is TryandWare412 taking a look at the game True or Lie, played on webdiplomacy.net. Unlike the other videos I've made before, this is not actually a game that I played in, so I will be offering my commentary from an outsider's perspective. So without further ado, let's take a look at how things turned out. Spring 1901 brings us some pretty standard openings. In the West, it looks like non-aggression between England and France as they both go their separate ways rather than going into the English Channel. And Germany not doing anything terribly aggressive, moving towards his typical neutral centers. In the East, it looks like the possibility of a juggernaut between Russia and Turkey, as they have both avoided the Black Sea, which is not terribly standard. Now, Austria moving east pretty freely, doesn't seem to be worried about his neighbor to the west, Italy, either, so maybe something going on there. Turkey's fleet move seems to confirm the juggernaut suspicions in the east, and the moves of Austria also seem to confirm that he is working with Italy since he is leaving his western front completely undefended. A couple surprises in the west. France, rather than taking Portugal with his fleet, leaves the fleet holding, which means he'll only get 2 builds this year. And Germany moves his army from Munich against Russia, but then does not use his fleet in Denmark to bounce Russia out of Sweden. A little surprising. No surprise from England as he pushes hard to get Norway and a build. So when we get to our first build phase, it's all about fleets in the west, as England, France, and Germany all have built one. France's fleet a little surprising and maybe anti-English, so we'll see how that turns out in the years to come. And in the east, it's all about armies. Russia, Austria, and Turkey all building armies to fight it out in the Balkans. Turkey's build a little surprising, might have expected a fleet from him. In the west, France attacks England with that fleet that he built, but England does not seem to see it coming, so he instead focuses his attack on Russia. Germany as well, attacking Russia in Scandinavia and on the mainland. Russia just having a hard time of it all around, getting attacked not only by England and Germany, but also by Austria in the southeast. His ally Turkey seems to be helping a little bit by pressuring Austria in Greece, but Austria's ally Italy also pressuring by moving his fleets into position for the Lepanto move. After the retreat phase, we start to see some trouble for Austria and Italy. Austria not able to get Greece back, but they do lose Romania to Russia. And Italy attempting to do the Lepanto, but misordering, and so his army is stranded in Tunis, so nothing going there. France and Russia both giving it to England in the northwest, one in Scandinavia, the other on his mainland. And Germany continues to move against Russia, making good progress both in Scandinavia and in Warsaw. Russia's forced to move back, and Austria's retreat could cause him trouble in the near future. Our second build phase is a repeat for a couple nations, France and Germany building the exact same units this year. Turkey builds a fleet, which is kind of what we expected in the first year, and we finally see it now. But England, Russia, and Austria all forced to disband, not a good thing this early in the game. As the third year of the game starts, we see France making steady gains against England, who is really just having a hard time. Germany is NMR this season, doesn't submit moves at all, so that's going to cause him trouble later. In the southeast, we see the Juggernaut alliance with Russia and Turkey continuing to work against Austria and Italy, and an Italian move from Tunis to Albania, which could present some questions in seasons to come. Germany and Austria are both forced to retreat, and in the next season, just as things start to look up for Austria and he starts to regain some ground, Italy turns on him and takes one of his home centers. France's progress is slow, and Germany is completely stalled after his NMR. He loses Warsaw and is unable to take it back, so he is going to have to do some work to get back in this thing. So it's a rough season for the Juggernaut, both of them being forced to retreat. And in the adjustment phase, we see France building a new fleet, prepping for a move into the Mediterranean, and Italy looking to become a solo power as he builds a few more units. Germany and Turkey both forced to disband. The spring of 1904 sees France starting to move south as Germany tries desperately to regain momentum after his disastrous NMR in the last turn, and the Balkans are just a mess. Russia seems to be out of things, and it's every man for himself, as Austria, Italy, and Turkey are all just scrapping to see who is going to keep control of those 4 neutral centers there: Romania, Bulgaria, Serbia, and Greece. In the fall, France succeeds in eliminating England and takes Tunis, so a very good turnaround for him. Germany starts to make progress with a new ally, one from the other side of the board, Austria, so we'll see how that friendship continues to develop. And the Balkans are still an absolute mess, with Russia turning on Turkey in a desperate move to get some territory. Also a tough break for Turkey as he forces Italy to retreat right into one of his own supply centers. In the next build phase, we see France really pushing for naval dominance, building 2 new fleets, and Germany gets another build, putting in an army to continue his push eastward. As 1905 begins in the west, we see France and Germany still playing nicely with one another, but Russia getting a fleet into western water, hoping to cause some trouble. And the old alliances in the east seem to be back on track as Russia and Turkey are working together, and Austria and Italy, both supporting one another's movements and hoping to work together to get things straightened out in the Balkans. This cooperation continues into the fall turn, where we see Austria taking back his home supply centers, while Italy falls back to defend his own home supply centers from the French invasion coming in from the west. On the other side of the board, we see Germany still duking it out with Russia, Russia severely weakened, but Germany having trouble gaining ground and, more importantly, gaining supply centers. 1905 marks the first year that France does not get a build during the adjustment phase, so that's a slow down for him. Only build going to Austria this turn for retaking his home supply centers. In the following spring, France begins to shuffle his units around in the Mediterranean, hoping to get a build out of Italy, and Germany and Austria in their alliance continue to work against Russia, picking up some ground and knocking out the last 2 Russian home centers. Austria takes a center away from Italy, but that's very unlikely. An aggressive move on his part. More likely, his ally Italy has told him, go ahead and take my back centers, I just have to defend at home. Russian units are forced to retreat, and Russia needs to figure something out in this fall turn, or he is going to be out of this game for sure. Turkey invades Italian centers as Italy continues to fight France off, and that's really about the only interesting thing going on. Elsewhere on the board, you see Germany continues to fight against Russia, and German and French units in the northwest continue just to sit there peacefully on one another's borders. Instead of gaining ground in the Mediterranean, France actually loses ground and is forced to retreat, and so for the second year in a row has no build. New armies built for Germany, Austria, and Turkey, but the disbands that Italy has to do will weaken him, and France will very likely gain ground very soon. France begins 1907 by regaining that lost ground in the Mediterranean in his fight against Italy, and Austria attacks Germany in Warsaw, which could be signs of mistrust in their new alliance, so we will see how that works out in the next turn or so. Austria's attack prevents him from properly defending, and that allows Russia to retake one of his home supply centers, which will make up for a loss to Turkey in the south. The fall of 1907 shows a good deal of progress. Russia is finally eliminated after retaking Sevastopol in the spring. Germany attacks Austria now after Austria's attack on Germany the season before, and France continues his campaign against Italy, finally having some success and taking 2 of those Italian home centers. So a great deal going on this season. The new build phase sees several armies built in Germany, Turkey, and France also building a fleet, and in the north, this could be an anti-German fleet. We will just have to wait and see. As spring 1908 begins, we see France move that fleet out towards the Mediterranean and leaving the rest of his northern units holding, so it is unlikely that he's moving hostilely towards Germany. Germany vies for position against Austria as he continues to fight in the east, and Turkey has gotten himself in a place where he is just not too important, being kind of hung up and stuck in the corner there. As France moves units into the final Italian center, he also begins to position his fleets against Turkey in the far southeast. So we'll see if that continues to be his strategy. And Germany makes more progress against Austria, taking a couple Austrian centers this turn and gaining good ground. Another build phase comes. We see France and Germany both building armies. Germany, of course, building his to continue in his campaign against Austria, and France likely trying to use his in the southeast as well. In the following spring, we see Turkey helping German units fight against Austria, Turkey just hoping that he is not the next person swallowed up by Germany, in my estimation. And France is able to take Greece from Turkey, so he's gaining ground yet again in the southeast. But look at how many units he has holding, particularly in the northwest. Austria retreats behind German lines, but that doesn't cause Germany any trouble, as Germany continues to make gains in his war with Austria. And France, on the other hand, finding Greece, his new acquisition, indefensible. and he ends up losing the territory and the fleet that was there with it. France is able to rebuild that fleet that he just lost, lucky for him, so he does so in Brest, and Germany gets 2 new armies because of his acquisitions from Austria, which is going to be a big deal for him. Germany is going to take those new armies and push westward finally against his sleeping neighbor France, and this is going to prompt France to drop out of the game completely, which I really hate to see in a game like this. As Germany continues to push in the fall, France offers 0 resistance, and so at the end of the fall 1910, Germany is going to have 17 centers, and is going to have his pick of all those empty French centers just to take his victory from. France will not submit retreats since he is no longer submitting orders. Germany will get several new armies, and in the next turn it's just going to be able to spread those out wherever he sees fit. And so in the spring of 1911, which would be the last year of the game, we see Germany ceasing hostilities with all of his other neighbors, Austria and Turkey, and focusing solely on France, who has dropped out, and he will take his last several centers from there. And that's a strategy I can really get behind for a winning player. It rewards people like Austria and Turkey who stuck it out through a tough game, while taking away centers from the people like the French player who just dropped when the going got tough. And so at last, after 22 long turns, the German player pulls out a solo victory with 21 centers. Very good game on his part. I thought a very good game in general from a lot of players. It was a lot of fun to watch and a lot of fun to kind of dig through and comment on. So if you have any questions about it, or if you were a player and want to make comments, please feel free to do that. And thanks for watching.